Welcome to Uplink, where we explore the world of digital infrastructure, uncovering the technology fueling AI and cloud innovation with the leaders making it happen. I'm your host, Michael Reid, and my guest today is Kevin Schlosser, Interconnection Product Manager at NTT. Now, Kevin focuses on the critical layer where networks meet, and he's going to break down the art and science of interconnection in the age of global cloud and these crazy AI workloads. Let's dive in. Well, Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
I know you've got a great background, a lot of experience in our space. I'd love you to quickly touch on your role now, what you've been doing, and a little bit of history.
Sure.
And then I'd love to hear your thoughts on where the industry's going, some of the challenges that you're seeing or opportunities, just how it's all playing out. So let's just take it away.
Sure.
So what's your current role?
Okay. I manage the telecommunications team within NTT Global Data Centers.
Awesome.
And
Not easy.
we're a one-stop shop, so we're involved from everything from due diligence on new builds,
Oh, yes.
RFPs for customers, assessing what their connectivity requirements are.
New
and
builds,
creating
like
solutions.
new builds for when you
Greenfields.
roll out fiber to different locations, or what do you mean by that?
For example, if we do our builds by greenfield builds right now. We
Okay.
don't really do acquisitions. So if we're going to do a new piece of land that we buy, we have to do an assessment of what the fiber and the lay of the land is from a connectivity perspective, so
Got it.
they can have an understanding of how to put that
So when they
into
build
their...
the data centers and so forth, you know that, okay, yeah. So you don't acquire. That's interesting.
No, not yet.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So you're building.
Right.
It's a big company,
Yes.
NTT, lots of different parts of it. Japanese ownership, I suppose, but everywhere. Huge in globally, actually.
It's huge, but it's also a bit complicated that it's split up to sister companies that do like managed services.
Okay.
So there is the global data center
Yes.
portion. It's divided between the Americas, EU, India, and Asia.
Okay.
But we're in a global consolidation right now. So
Okay.
my director is now going to take on telecommunications role for EU. We're integrating the EU portion now. So
Interesting.
our role is going to expand globally.
So US and EU coming together.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
eventually India and Asia. But we're in discovery right now because we have to understand what the products are, what the processes are,
Yes.
line, all that.
And before NTT, I think you were at Equinix for a while.
Yes, I was at Equinix for about 15 years.
Yeah.
So I was there from the fairly early days, so I saw the extreme growth.
Yes, yeah, crazy growth. Actually, one of the Equinix founders sits on our board, Jay. Very early. I mean, founded.
Yeah, he
it's
founded
like
it, yeah.
90s, late 90s, I think it was. He actually told me over a beer what Equinix stands for. I've forgotten now, but it was it was all the letters. But in Internet Exchange was
Right.
the last IX, and started with an IX in I think San
Alto.
Palo, yeah. Yeah, he told me a bunch of those stories. So yeah, huge growth there. What were you involved in at Equinix? Is that was it network sides and product sides?
I was in ops enablement.
Okay.
So we were kind of the go-between between the operations side and everything else corporate. So we dealt with a lot of things. So we were heavily involved in product and with Mylene.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
She was
yeah.
one of
She's
our key
amazing.
people
Yeah.
we worked with on the product side. So we did a lot with systems development. So any operationally needed changes to the systems, we would help lead that with the IT teams and project manage that for the operations side, providing all the SOPs and standardization of policies and training and things of that nature.
Okay.
So
Awesome. So what are you seeing at the moment? I mean, the world's changing a lot. There's so much opportunity. It's when things move fast, particularly infrastructure providers, infrastructure takes time to build, and so it takes time to figure out where things are going, what they need, and then you got to physically build something out to do that. So what are you seeing come across your desk? What are the challenges or opportunities, whichever way you want to frame them for you?
Well, from the infrastructure point of view, our interaction is on the design side. We have a kind of a model that we do. So from connectivity, one of the biggest but one of the biggest issues we work with our customers is diversity. Right now, diversity and redundancy.
Physical diversity,
Yes,
so
and
different KMZ paths, so that's different.
everything. diversity path and redundancy on the network from end to end. So that's what our customers are going over a fine tooth comb.
Yes.
You know, what kind of, whether it's IP or
we've
using
experienced
Megaport.
challenges with. I mean, our entire backbone is very diverse. We have to build everything. We ensure that there's separate fiber paths, so with like a KMZ path, which is the actual, you know, for listeners, like looking at a Google map where the path runs. A lot of cases you can think you have diverse paths.
Oh yes.
But then they just cross in one river crossing or one pipe or whatever it may be, one duct, and of course that's always the duct that's going to get cut if there's a digger. And then all of a sudden you have a multitude of outages or two outages. And it can be challenging because multiple carriers can potentially share similar ducts. So
that's part of what you're asking about what we do. On the design side, we make sure that we have the design specs all meet what we do. So right now our basic design is 4 zero manholes, feeding 4 entry facilities, feeding 2 MMRs, meet rooms.
So what does that mean? 4 separate ingress egress points to a data center?
Yeah, so the zero manhole is the entry point into our property from the street. So we'll have 4 of those.
4 of those.
Feeding into 4 entry points into the data center.
Wow.
So we'll pull conduit to there. And then those will feed into the meet me rooms, which will have 2 separate meet rooms. So that gives a lot of flexibility for carriers to pathway in with multiple laterals. Then we will
So this is the data center itself?
This is the data center itself. And then we'll track which fibers from carriers are going through what conduit.
Okay.
Because if we do get a customer who's asking for carrier diversity, what IP with these 2 carriers, we need to do exactly what you say, make sure that they're not going out the same conduit.
And do you find that carriers are turning up and trying to land in multiple, like 2 sites so that they can deliver diversity to a customer? Or is it like we'll put one carrier in this and another carrier on the other?
No, typically our bigger carriers are wanting to have a presence in both meet me rooms.
Yes.
And then because there's TIA standards about separation that we have to adhere to. So because the meet me rooms meet that criteria, and then they'll pull laterals into each meet me room.
So what happens if their network has an issue? So you get all this is what I've had come up, it's like all this physical redundancy, even the devices themselves. So if you know, in our case, they're switches, and if you did do maintenance on one, we have a red and a blue. But what happens if the network behind the scenes has an issue? Can that still take it out, or you separate that somehow as well?
Are you talking about the customer's network?
The carriers, more the carriers that are providing those components.
Well, that's the reason we're going with diversity. So
Diverse
one
carriers,
of them does have them down that. Or even diverse pathways, because we do the diversity requirements comes from our customers.
Yes.
So we provide options and solutions that meet what their requirements are, and each customer kind of has their own definition of what diversity means to them.
Yeah.
Because you can say that, and it can have a totally different meaning to another customer. So we kind of have to dig and ask questions of what their risk tolerance
how deep they
is,
want to go,
and then we'll meet that. So it can be, being a carrier-neutral data center, we have quite a few carriers, especially our retail areas, and then we can satisfy most everything.
We've got interesting designs where we've seen customers want 2 physical data center locations in case the entire data center has an issue. So then you ensure they're on different grids or even different locations. You could even say like one East Coast US, one West Coast, and then you could even go country. But we've seen examples where on the East Coast or West Coast you have the diversity of physical data centers. And then inside those data centers we have 2 physical devices which are totally separated physically. And we treat them as a red and a blue zone, so they could never be upgraded at the same time. They're treated separately.
Oh, I know. I've seen it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we always take 2. In some countries, we take 3 or 4 or up to 6 paths potentially, depending on the country. But in the US, it's usually 2 physical diversity paths, so that every time our customer, and this is one of the values we bring, is that any VXC or virtual connection from Megaport, you are instantly resilient across the physical infrastructure. And so you could take 2 ports, that ensures you're physically connecting over red and blue, but the path that it takes is always running across multiple. So instead of having to buy one path and then another path from a separate carrier, Megaport's already done that work for you and virtually connecting across that. But we've also then seen them take another data center in case, something happened to that data center. So
it's all about the risk tolerance.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a standard model we'll have where they'll have a deployment, then they'll have a data recovery deployment across country.
Yep.
Both of those will be tied into the cloud.
Yes.
A lot of times we're using Megaport for that. And then even on the cloud side, because multi-cloud is now becoming the big thing, the big issue. So,
Yes.
but they may run the red router to to a on-ramp in one data center,
Yes.
and then run the blue to a different on-ramp in another data center
Yes.
on the cloud side.
Yes.
So we see that a lot.
Yeah.
If the on-ramps allow that, sometimes the locations don't
work for that. Yeah. We've seen Azure has done a pretty good job of putting an SLA around
right.
Connecting into the clouds. And so we've seen a lot of customers, I think because of the push, because they're getting SLA with diversity, having to ensure the different paths. I think it's a great option because it's actually sort of been pushed. I think some of the other clouds hadn't pushed that SLA component, so that weren't as focused, but we know that makes a big difference.
So the network you were talking about and the redundancy you're talking about, we go over that with our customers quite a bit because they ask and we kind of and sometimes we'll bring your sales engineers on to explain that for us.
Totally. Oh, that's cool.
It works really well. We've had good response from customers.
So resiliency, design, what are you seeing in terms of demand? Is AI changing anything? Everyone wants to talk about that, but what are you seeing as change? Hyperscalers? I don't know. What's the trending you're seeing in your world?
We're, wave one was the internet.
Yeah.
And the data center. Wave two is kind of the cloud.
Yes.
And now we're into wave three, the AI side, and it's started to change. We're in the beginning of it. From an internal, it's changing just how the data center works in terms of data centers using the AI to make the data center run more efficiently. So from internal use, that's obviously one. But from a customer perspective, it's not so much the connectivity side's bandwidth. It's driving higher bandwidth requirements. So, the old, I can remember back in the day, I'm sure you do too, when OC 192 was considered the biggest pipe anybody would ever need.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about 100 gig becoming almost a basic order.
Yeah.
400 gig now is what they're looking for. So that's coming up. And so bandwidth is one big change. And I think AI is driving that heavily.
Yeah.
The second big change is not so much on the connectivity side, but the cooling, the traditional.
Yeah. And liquid cooling, water cooling, and so forth. Oh, how's that? Yeah, sorry.
Yes,
so liquid cooling.
We do both. We do immersion cooling as well as water to the chip.
What are you seeing customers adopt?
Both.
Both, yeah.
Again.
Depending.
Yeah, again, being a colo, we rely on what the customer's requirements are, and they're the ones kind of telling us. We have to just make sure that the data centers are ready to accommodate those kinds of cooling techniques.
Yeah.
I have an interesting, a little bit aside, my wife's in genetics.
Oh, yeah.
So I read some of her articles, and there was an article I was reading that in San Francisco, some of the bioengineering firms are looking at creating genetically modified organisms that will pull heat out of the cooling systems.
What?
And they see that as a long-term solution to AI. So it just shows you never know where technology is coming from.
That's, it certainly helps solve the carbon emissions related to the energy related to it. That's cool. There's so much cool stuff coming. So do you feel, let me ask you this one, you've been in the industry a while, it always feels, if I went to any moment in my career and went back and talked to myself, I would convince you that it's the most disruptive moment in history. And it feels like it's always more disruptive now. It feels more disruptive now than it did, 3 years ago, and back and forth. And so the question is, do you think it is always just disruptive and always something changing, or right now it is moving faster than we've ever moved before and that is then changing the game? Or there's some days you wake up and you just go, you know what, it's the same thing that we've been doing for a long period of time. You know what I mean? It might be just faster.
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, we are doing a lot of the same things in connectivity. The core concepts haven't changed that much, but the speed at which technology is progressing makes it feel like you're just never ahead of the game.
You can never catch up.
And
It's like
once you learn something, you hear a conversation from somebody of something you didn't know, and it just puts a light bulb on, hey, we can apply that back to here.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of both. The core things are the same. You still have to connect. You still have to use the internet. You still have to do those things. It's just that how you do it. I mean, a good example, you're ahead of the game. You're pushing a lot of our other carriers to start creating a lot more flexibility on their ordering, you know.
Yes.
So we're already pressing our big tier ones to say, hey, well, I want to have a portal where I can order a wave, submit my things in and get it in a couple of days and not have to wait a month and go through all this.
And spin it up and spin it down. You know what's so fascinating on our side? We're 11 years old, and we're still really disruptive. And so that's why I say some things change fast, really fast. And some things change really slow. I mean, you would have thought that what we brought out 11 years ago, everyone would just have caught on and done that. Now, the interesting part is, and this is what I think about it a lot, because our investors, our shareholders would ask, why aren't there more competitors in your space? Why aren't there more people doing what you're doing? Now, it's not because they don't want to. They absolutely want to. But the key to what we deliver is two things. One, you have to automate it, because otherwise it can't be delivered quickly. You can't. Humans take too long. Now, if you automate something and you do it in less than a minute, it means you can go spin it up, spin it down. In every 5 minutes, you could make big changes to the speed. So you have to have automation down to less than a minute at least. But the second complex part is the billing platforms. Don't underestimate how complex they are for most of these telcos, particularly when they've got multiple acquisitions. Many of them don't have one billing platform. They've literally just got a billing platform for every acquisition. They couldn't link them together. So we're finding the limitations. It's not like technically what could be done. It's the machines behind them. And that's why we had this luxury of building from ground up automation. Every single piece of equipment was chosen and automated from the get-go. I don't know how you do it the other way around. We've seen that it's not really happening. So as much as you push, I think that's why we still see ourselves as this really differentiated thing, even though it's 11 years old. So some tech super fast, some a little bit slow. So we're sort of the beneficiary of a slower industry on that side, but we're keeping up with this insatiable change on everything else. So,
but what you're talking about isn't a technical issue. It's really the change management behind it.
Yes.
Can use those technologies.
Correct.
That's a challenge, especially with bigger companies that have done a lot of acquisitions.
Yes.
That's absolutely correct.
Well, the ones that should automate. Now, the other thing that's also interesting is you talked about resiliency and redundancy. One of the things that a carrier can deliver, and they'll talk about their strength, is their fiber assets as a great example. Our strength is that we have no fiber assets because we can pick and choose and always ensure different KMZs, totally different networks. We can take completely different paths as opposed to one provider only using their own infrastructure. And that is the key for us to ensure that our customers have full diversity as well. So it's almost like a strength by not having the infrastructure, whereas they would say the strength is having it. So we're just seeing this interesting space play out as well. So.
But we're happy with it. I mean, Mayport's been a really good partner for ours, and it's offered us a good alternative to some of the wave connections. We've experienced in the U.S. the fiber. There are areas where there's still a lot of aerial fiber, especially in older areas where they have to go through water and stuff like that. And they're really prone to accidents and stuff. So we've had some. When you have a resilient or redundant network like yours, it really offers us another solution in case the waves connections just aren't working. The pathways don't work for diverse pathways.
I mean, there was an outage in Spain and Portugal there was a big outage with power actually just recently. We had this, and we didn't even know about it. Because the network constantly self-heals, it's always fixing. There'll be something wrong, and the team will be fixing it. But from a user, they don't even notice it. And the only reason I found out about it was our customer sent us an email thanking us for being the only one that remained up through all this time and fully available. And I was like, what was the outage? You know, and then you realize I think there was some power outage over there. Anyway, the purpose, what we've built is built expecting failure. We expect someone to dig a hole. We expect someone to, drive through thing and rip out a bit of fiber or whatever. And if you expect that, you build another path, you build it resilient for it. So, yeah, at any moment in time, we've got different outages, but it's never actually impacting the network as a whole. So, yeah, super important. Well, we appreciate your partnership. What about the future? What can you see? More of the same, or does it keep getting disrupted? Or, I don't know. What are you thinking from a design side?
That's a tough one to play. To be
Super
honest,
hard,
we're
isn't it?
so focused on trying to meet the changing environment right now.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought it out. I think AI is going to be the driver, and there's a lot of unknowns. I mean, you have things like quantum computing now starting to become a reality,
Yeah.
especially if you're dealing in any of the crypto
Yes.
or cryptology type
Yes.
solutions. It's just bandwidth, and
It's more of this. That's why I think
for us, I think it's more the same for right now.
Yeah, I think about that as well. We're like, particularly as CEO of a company where you've got to place bets, investments in the future. If you go back, 20 years, it's still the same. We're still connecting. What's happening is more resiliency, more speed, more power, more locations. It's just more.
Right.
But you can hang your hat on the fact that networking actually hasn't changed a great deal in that time. Still IP addresses, a lot of IPv4 still out there. The structures of how, actual routing works and how you fail over or don't fail over or you flap and all this, it's actually not changing that much. So that's nice to be in an industry where we'll continue to be critical for what is being rolled out, regardless of whichever path it rolls, and we'll continue to support it. It's just, so to some extent, you don't have to place too big a bet, I think, on that side.
I think thinking a little bit about what's happening, I see a lot of the smaller customers moving out of data centers and going to the cloud directly from their corporate side. So they're kind of abandoning the private cloud model. Now the enterprise is still doing that, but that's one thing I see more. So you're seeing it.
You'll see
edge
small end moving to
small kind of going up, so that's probably one thing I can see.
Yeah.
It's a trend right now in our data centers.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the partnership. Anything you need from us, you let us know. Otherwise, keep building what you're building, and we'll service these customers together and make an impact.
Yeah, your teams have been very helpful. So I just want to say that not only the account teams, but also the sales engineer teams have been really invaluable, because when we're going into the cloud, a lot of times we don't have the cloud experience.
Yeah.
Our customers don't always know how to interact with the megboard coming into the cloud. And your sales engineers are always helping us out on that side. We're learning, but it's a good partnership. We're really happy with it.
That's great. Our solutions architects are so critical. What's super difficult is each cloud provider has a different way of doing things. How you build resiliency, how you design for egress will change your costs dramatically. We launched a cool new product called NAT Gateway, which is saving customers a huge amount of cost just for NAT translation. We're seeing customers use that and then push that back into the cloud and use that spend for AI and all sorts of things. So, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.